The focus on gratitude for what is as it is the medicine for all of this. Because otherwise, it's really that the focus on gratitude, and it's very related to the blessing of what is. We talked about that last week. It's what allows the surrender into the slow unfolding. It's literally what allows you to not be cursing the pace that things occur at, because otherwise that level of resistance from the ego, I need Mars to be direct now, it's serving a purpose by being retrograde right now. And it's often the opportunity to sink into what is and go, all right, it's kind of what I was talking about last week. Often the change in something comes when you finally surrender to it. It's just the craziest thing about how the universe is constructed. I've seen it like 5 million times. When you finally go, this is how it is for right now. It can turn on a dime, but for right now, blessing it as opposed to cursing it, being a victim about it. And doesn't have anything to do with not feeling the feelings. But you feel the feelings. If you're mad about it, you get the feelings out. You go break bottles, you go break dishes, you go punch a punching bag. You get the feelings out. And then you come back to even a prayer that says, let me bless this as it is. It's almost always the key in the lock. And honestly, the number of times I've watched this, whether it's people that have, the pregnancy one I talked about last week is the obvious one. Who was it? Might have been Lissa Rankin. She actually was saying that so often, once women start the adoption process, they just go, you know what, I'm not getting pregnant. Let's adopt. Bam, the paperwork is in motion and they're pregnant because they've opened the space for the body to relax into what is. Same thing, I was actually thinking about this. It always stayed with me. If you know the TV show Orange is the New Black, for some reason I remember watching an interview with a lot of the leading people from the actresses in that show. Almost every one of them had got into a place where they had no job on the horizon. They didn't know what was coming next. A few of them had even said, I'm leaving acting. I can't get work. I'm black. I'm Latina. I'm a certain age. It's like, I'm not getting work. I give up. And each one of them, that was when the job came. And it really, I think there's a difference. When you give up with bitterness, you block things. So it's not the kind of fuck you give up. It's when you just let go. And you just say, I am open now. I am open now to a divine plan. Let what wants to happen, happen, and let me somehow, some way, bless what is. Same thing with relationship. When I used to give readings, I'd see it all the time. As soon as somebody said, you know what, I'd prefer a partner. However, let me just embrace this without a partner. Let me just change me into somebody who can absolutely just embrace this as it is. So often that's when the partner would walk in. Because the resistance, the fight, the victimization, the anger is so often what perpetuates itself. So this really isn't about waiting for one transit or another, although I'll keep telling you the transits, they're really helpful to know. But one of the biggest things you can learn under Mars retrograde, which is what we're in right now, is how to open to the slow unfolding, knowing everything will unfold at the rate it needs. There's a blooming that's happening. It's going to be slow. And then you can go in and bless it as it's unfolding, as opposed to being furious at it. So I got to tell you one really funny story about that topic, and then I'll go to the questions that came in. So there's this sort of Korean bathhouse that I go to in San Francisco every so often, like when it's just time to take a break. And it's just this place. They, have a steam room. They have a hot tub, and it's run by Korean people who also they also have Korean sort of scrubs and things, and I like all that. So I've gone to this place off and on, I don't know, for 15 years now. Every so often, a couple times a month or once a month. Anyway, I went the other day. Never ever have had this happen. They have these big wooden lockers that you put your stuff in, and they're kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen lockers like this, but you don't have to put on an external lock. You just, shut the door with your key, and it beeps, and your stuff is locked. Okay. I come back after, I don't know, my 2 or 3 hours there. I'm just in a robe. Everything else that I own is inside the locker, and I'm getting ready to leave. I put the key in. Nothing happens. There's no beep. The locker is dead. It's not going to open up. So I go and, go to the front desk, and, I'm asking them to help me. And they come in. They're like, no worries. We'll use the master key. Master key doesn't work. So this entire thing, it was like a perfect Mars retrograde moment. This entire thing starts unfolding where all my stuff is in this heavy wooden locker. Nobody knows how to get it out. And basically, they're trying this, they're hitting it, they're pushing it, they're trying to get the hinges to come off. They won't. Finally, after about a half hour of this, they're like, okay, we have to close the place down, and we have to get these 2 men to come in with sledgehammers, and they need to rip this entire locker apart. And basically that's what happened. It was like this wild experience. These 2 huge guys came in with sledgehammers and ripped this entire wooden locker to shreds. And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, I don't know, there was something so symbolic to me. I mean, first of all, there were all these women who were furious that the place was now closed while this locker's getting thing. And there's this woman next to me, and she's going, aren't you mad? You should be so mad. You should tell them that you need 20 free visits. And I'm like, it's not their fault. The locker died. They're getting it open. It's okay. And it was just this fascinating thing, watching all this Mars anger stuff, being in the middle of it. The 2 men who were doing it were furious that they got brought in to have to dismantle this locker. But it was it was what it was. And after about, I think it took 45 minutes, they literally hacked this thing to shreds, got the door pulled off, and I got access to my stuff, and I left. But it was this thing about you totally have a choice in the moment what you're going to feel. And yeah, I guarantee you, 5 or 10 years ago, I would have been more like that woman. Oh, this is outrageous, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just what was happening. And I don't know, there was something very liberating about watching this entire door get ripped off of this locker. And you're there you are. That's what's happening under Mars retrograde. This resistance to what is gets opened. And then you're free. There's a freedom when you're no longer telling the universe what should be happening. Something is fundamentally liberated. You're just with what is. So I don't know. I don't know if you're hearing the story going, I don't understand. Think for some of you, it'll be very, very meaningful. It's like you just let the locker get ripped open. If that's what's happening, let it get ripped open. One of the odder stories I've told on this forum, but for me it was very powerful. All right, you never know how the universe is going to send signs, that's for sure.